The air in the room had stopped moving 20 minutes ago. It was not a sudden stillness. It was a gradual thickening, the way heat settles over a valley in late afternoon. The layout of the chairs suggested expectation. They were arranged in a shallow arc, facing a single point that remained empty. There were 12 people in the room. At the beginning, the atmosphere was defined by industry. There was the rustle of fabric as coats were removed, the crisp sound of latches snapping open on briefcases, the polite, rhythmic clicking of heels on the polished floor. There was a performance of readiness. Backs were straight. Hands were clasped on laps or resting on the edge of tables, fingers interlaced, displaying patience. But that was the first hour. Now the performance has degraded. The silence is no longer professional, it is biological. It is the sound of 12 people trying to occupy a space without acknowledging that the reason they are there has not happened. Observe the man in the gray suit, third from the left. For the first 30 minutes, he checked his watch by turning his wrist slightly, a movement designed to be invisible. He would glance down, eyes darting, then immediately return his gaze to the front of the room. It was a check of logistics. Now the movement has changed. He lifts the arm openly. He stares at the dial. He taps the glass face with a fingernail once, twice. It is no longer about knowing the time. It is a signal to the others. He is performing his irritation. He looks up, scanning the faces to his left and right, inviting them to share in the offense. No one meets his eyes. To acknowledge his irritation would be to acknowledge that something has gone wrong. The group prefers to maintain the illusion that this delay is part of a plan they simply haven't been briefed on yet. The soundscape of the room has shifted. Initially, it was dominated by the hum of the ventilation system, a low, white noise that covered the sound of breathing. Now, the human sounds are piercing through the mechanical hum. A throat is cleared. It sounds violent in the quiet. The squeak of a leather sole shifting on the floorboards echoes like a shout. Someone sighs. It is a long, exhaling breath that starts in the chest and ends with a slight, vocalized drop in pitch. It is a sigh of surrender. In the corner, a woman has stopped looking at her phone. For a long time, the device was her shield. She scrolled with a steady, hypnotic rhythm, her face illuminated by the artificial blue light, creating a private room within the public one. It allowed her to be present physically, but absent socially. But now the battery is low, or the content has run out, or the pretense has become too heavy to lift. She has placed the phone face down on the table. The screen is dark. She is forced to look at the room. She studies her own cuticles. She picks at a jagged edge of skin on her thumb. She pulls. A tiny bead of red appears. She watches it, fascinated by this small, stinging reality in a room where nothing else is happening. She presses her thumb against a tissue, watching the red stain bloom, blotting out the boredom with minor pain. The dynamic of the group is decomposing. When they arrived, they were a collective. They were the attendees. They shared a singular purpose. Now they are fragmenting into islands of individual discomfort. Two men seated near the window attempt a low conversation. They lean in, shoulders touching. They whisper, but in a room this quiet, a whisper is abrasive. The sibilant S sounds hissed through the air. The other 10 people do not turn their heads, but their posture stiffens. They are listening. They cannot help it. They are straining to catch a word, a name, a reason for the wait. The conversation dies quickly. The two men realize they are being monitored. They pull apart, resetting their posture, returning to the vigil. The light in the room is changing. The sun has moved past the window frames, and the sharp rectangles of light on the carpet have stretched and faded into gray, diffused shadows. The room is dimming, but no one gets up to turn on the overhead switch. To stand up and walk to the light switch would be an act of leadership. It would claim ownership of the space. No one here feels like an owner. They are all subjects, waiting for the authority to arrive. So they sit in the growing dark. A cup of water sits on the central table. Ice cubes, once sharp and jagged, have melted into small, rounded slivers. Condensation has pooled at the base of the coaster, overflowing onto the wood. A single drop breaks the surface tension and runs down the table leg. It is the most active thing in the room. The tension is now physical. You can see it in the jaws. The muscles just below the ear are tight. Teeth are clenched. There is a collective holding of breath, a suspension of the diaphragm. The woman nearest the door shifts her legs. She uncrosses them, then recrosses them the other way. The fabric of her trousers rustles. 10 seconds later, the man across from her does the same. It is a contagion of restlessness. The body wants to run, but social contract demands it stays still. The energy has nowhere to go, so it turns inward, becoming heat, becoming rigidity. Someone coughs, a dry hacking sound. Usually in a polite society, a cough is followed by a murmur. "Excuse me, bless you, here there is nothing." The cough hangs in the air unanswered. The silence swallows it. The lack of response is a breach of etiquette, but the etiquette has dissolved. They are past the point of politeness. They are in the territory of endurance. The focus of the room narrows. Earlier, eyes were wandering, checking the architecture, the view, the artwork. Now, all attention is magnetic, pulled toward the heavy double doors at the front of the room. The doors are solid wood, dark and imposing. The brass handles are curved. Every person in the room is fixated on those handles. They are visualizing the mechanics of the arrival. The downward turn of the brass, the click of the internal latch, the rush of air as the seal breaks, the widening gap of light. They are writing the script of the next 5 seconds in their heads, over and over again. Every time a shadow moves in the hallway outside, observable through the frosted glass pane, the room inhales. Heads lift imperceptibly. The collective heart rate spikes. The shadow passes. It was just a passerby, a janitor, a ghost. The heads lower. The exhalation is heavier this time, laced with a trace of anger. The disappointment is cumulative. Each false alarm adds a layer of sediment to the mood. They are beginning to hate the person they are waiting for. It is a quiet, simmering resentment. It is the anger of the disregarded. By making them wait, the absent figure has established a hierarchy. My time is currency, the absent says. Yours is waste. And yet they stay. There is a threshold in waiting. A specific minute where the option to leave expires. If they had left after 10 minutes, it would have been a statement of self-respect. If they leave now after an hour, it is an admission of defeat. They have invested too much time to walk away empty-handed. This is the sunk cost of obedience. So they remain. The room is now nearly dark. The only light comes from the hallway glass and the faint glow of the city outside. A stomach growls. It is a loud, guttural sound, wet and biological. In a meeting, this would be funny. A moment to break the ice. Someone would make a joke about lunch. Here it is horrifying. The man whose stomach betrayed him flinches. He wraps his arms across his midsection, physically trying to muffle his own internal machinery. He stares at the floor, burning with a childish shame. The others pretend not to hear, but the sound lingers in the memory, a reminder that they are biological entities trapped in a social vacuum. The waiting has stripped them of their status. They are not executives or experts or leaders anymore. They are bodies in chairs. They are hungry. They are tired. They are needing the bathroom, but refusing to move. The silence is absolute now. Even the shifting has stopped. They have entered a state of paralysis. They are preserving energy. The air is stale, recycled through the lungs of 12 people, growing warmer and heavier with carbon dioxide. And then, a sound. Not the wind, not the building settling. It is distinct. Metal on metal. The faint, precise click of a latch engaging. It comes from the double doors. 12 heads snap up in unison. The movement is violent, synchronized. The brass handle begins to turn. It moves slowly. A downward arc. The light catches the metal as it rotates. The latch releases with a heavy thud. The door begins to crack open. A sliver of bright, harsh light from the hallway cuts across the dark floor, blinding in its intensity. It widens. The people in the chairs do not breathe. They do not blink. They lean forward, 12 spines straightening, 12 faces turning toward the light, ready to receive whatever walks through. The door opens. The gap widens. The light hits their faces. And they wait.